Welcome to the Build of the Month video for March 2022. If you guys watched my Builds and Deals video a week or two ago, you probably know that I am building a system that is intended to be given away. Kyle's going to be building a system too, but he'll be covering that on his channel. My build today is already going to be featuring an RTX 3080 Ti, an ASUS ROG Strix liquid-cooled version, as well as an ASUS ROG Strix Z690 motherboard. I still haven't figured out the case and a few other components when what should arrive to my door, but a brand new case that is launching today from HYTE, which is iBUYPOWER's brand of cases. They sent it to me because I'm doing some ad spots for them later this month, but I was like, you know what? This is a cool case. Maybe we should do this build in it. Then I contacted iBUYPOWER and they offered to provide a few more parts. So for starters today, we are headed to iBUYPOWER to pick up the rest of the components.
Excellent!
And here we are, we've got the rest of the components, so a big thank you to iBUYPOWER for helping provide a lot of the parts for this build. And if you're interested in iBUYPOWER assembling a system for you in the new Y60 case or a variety of other case options that they have available, check the link in the description and that will take you over to their website. Before we start going over all the parts though, I just wanted to say I'm excited to put this build together because it's a new case and we're building a high-end PC right now, which has been out of reach of a lot of people due to stuff like GPU pricing for quite some time. But now that we're almost done with the first quarter of 2022, things are looking up. There has been a positive move, or I would say a negative move, in GPU pricing. And if you watch my monthly build for February, you know that you can assemble a pretty reasonably powerful gaming PC right now for about $800 to $1,000. The highest end stuff, like a 3080 Ti, is still really expensive right now. This card itself is retailing for over $2,000 right now. So if a build of this caliber is out of your price range, I completely understand. I am going to be assembling it today and talking about the build process, and then in about a week, I'll be doing a follow-up video testing this system out and also launching a giveaway, so you might have a chance to win it. That said, we have a lot of work ahead of us, so let's go over all the parts. I love this part of the build where all the retail boxes are arrayed out here in front of us, and I'm gonna talk about the parts that I already had first, and these are provided by ASUS. We have the ASUS ROG Strix RTX 3080 Ti LC. That's the liquid-cooled version. It has a 240mm all-in-one liquid cooler attached to it. It's also got plenty of RGB, as you can probably see, and I believe Tom's Hardware said that this was the fastest card that they had ever tested. 12 gigs of GDDR6X on this card as well, and then we're pairing that with a motherboard that should match very nicely with it, the ROG Strix Z690-E Gaming Wi-Fi, which is an LGA 1700 motherboard for Intel's newest 12th gen core processors. This board is both well designed with excellent power delivery and also a quite pretty board, I will say as well. I like all the different variations that ASUS has come up with for integrating like RGB elements into their motherboards, because I feel like they've come up with some pretty unique solutions for that. And then since this is a DDR5 motherboard, we're going to be pairing it with this G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB kit. This is the black version of this memory. I actually have some more of this memory on the way from G.Skill, so I might be swapping that in, but it will be literally the exact same kit pretty much. Or I guess I might just leave this in there. But it's got RGB across the top, and this has been some of the fastest DDR5 memory that I have come across so far in my experience. All the rest of the parts you see here were provided by iBUYPOWER, so I gave them some sort of rough parameters for what I was looking for. So for example, with the storage, I said I'd like a 1TB NVMe SSD for a main boot drive and a 2TB SATA SSD for storage, games, and that sort of thing. So we have the WD Blue SN750 over here and the 870 QVO from Samsung. And the SN750 from Western Digital goes up to 3,500 megabytes per second reads. Not too shabby. I almost forgot our processor, which is a Core i7-12700K. That's actually the retail box from my wife's build that I did, the white build that I did back in January. Since iBUYPOWER is a system integrator, they buy tray CPUs, which just come with the CPU itself. So there's our actual 12700K. And we're gonna be keeping that cool with the Deepcool Castle 360EX all-in-one liquid cooler with a 360mm radiator. And we're gonna power everything with this power supply from Corsair, which is the RM850X, which is 80+ gold rated for efficiency and also fully modular. Now the cables that come with this power supply are all black, so they're not bad by any stretch, but I decided I wanted to finish things off kind of nicely since this is a white case with a black interior, so we're kind of have a black and white color scheme going. So I ordered some more Antec sleeved cable extensions that I'm hoping to pop in, although they haven't arrived yet. They're supposed to arrive today, but I'll show them off to you hopefully here once they do arrive, and we'll be pairing those up with the power supply to give a little bit more of a white accent internally with this build, since most of the internal components are going to be black. And then the last part here is our case, the brand new Y60 case from HYTE, and this is the version that's white on the outside and black on the inside. They also have a version that's pretty much all blacked out, and this case launches today, so I'm excited to take a first look at it. Those are all the parts. We're ready to get started. A quick reminder, I'm not doing a full tutorial on how to build this system today, so check the description for a link to my beginner's guide to building a PC playlist that has a bunch of walkthroughs for lots of different builds. Let's go! There is our Y60 case, nice and unboxed, and if you guys didn't already know, the kind of cool feature of this case is that it's got this wraparound tempered glass, so you can see the entire interior of the case from, well, at least about 180 degrees if you're standing on this side of it. Other than that, the layout is similar to the one popularized by the Lian Li 011 Dynamic, with a mounting point along the back panel for an additional radiator and more airflow that way. And it comes with 3 installed fans, 2 at the bottom directing air upwards, and 1 at the back for exhaust. But I forgot a couple things when I was going over the parts. One was that we also have these fans here from Corsair, the QL120 RGBs. I have found that with a system like this that's very visible, and especially if you want to integrate some RGB, having fans that match across the whole thing is a great way to sort of complete the look. So we're gonna have 2 fans right here for the radiator for the graphics card. The top is where the 360 is gonna be, so there's gonna be 3 more fans there, and then there's that rear exhaust. And although I am dreading connecting all the RGB connections for these fans, it should look a lot nicer once it's all assembled. Also, though it may seem strange, I wanted to read the side of the box because there's some marketing material here that I found to be like slightly amusing even. Why we made this case. A new build should feel new, that's reasonable. 3-piece panoramic glass with 3 times more satisfying plastic wrap removal. They're pandering to me here with that, and I'm gonna remove that after the build's done. I'd say this one is the most poignant at this point. We know how much you just spent on that GPU, so we threw in the riser cable as well. This has a PCIe 4.0 riser cable, and you can only do a vertical graphics card mount in this case. More on that in just a second. Cold floor structure keeps cooler than a partly cloudy day with a light breeze and you without your jacket. You know, maybe like a light jacket, is that what they're referring to? Check out this crown molding right there. I feel like this is referencing a meme that I'm not aware of, but crown molding like along the top. All right, let's take a closer look at this case. And the first thing you'll notice, of course, is that wraparound tempered glass. That is 3 separate pieces, one here, and one here. And they actually say you can remove this piece and this piece to have sort of more of an open air setup if that's your thing. But they do recommend that all of these pieces are installed if you're gonna ship the case at all. And in particular, this more narrow piece here does provide a little bit of support. So they recommend not pushing down on this corner of the case if you've removed all of the side panel pieces and you're assembling the system. So keep that in mind for anyone who works with this. HYTE has completely acknowledged that this has a bit of a fish tank look to it. And in fact, one of the early pre-launch videos that they did with Justin Roby of Roby Tech, they basically installed a fish tank inside of it, which was kind of a unique build. I should also point out there's a red version of this as well that has red accents wherever you see white on this case, which I think looks pretty cool too. And here's a quick look at the front panel connectors on this. You've got your power button right there, a couple USB 3.0s, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 that has an internal connector and a mic and headphone jack. This case is a thick boy, as you can probably see from this side. The ATX power supply vertically mounts right there, so that's wide enough to handle the power supply as well as some 3.5-inch storage, which is accessible from the back. That also means there's going to be plenty of room for cable management over on this side. And then the other thing you might notice back here is the expansion slots. It has 6 expansion slots here that are half height, and then 3 full height expansion slots over here, and that's where your graphics card is going to go. You actually can't horizontally mount a full-size graphics card in this case. It's meant to do that over here, and that's why a PCIe 4.0 riser cable is included. Removing a thumb screw here lets us pop off this side panel. And here we can give you a little bit better look. This is some styrofoam just to hold that riser in shipping. But on top, you've got a little bit of a plastic trim that's going to match the color of the case, and that's again just to complete the look and sort of mask off a little bit of that area. Then the cables come down right here, and the mount for your graphics card is pre-installed, and that means behind these cables, which will probably be more evident once we get the motherboard installed, you can still install half-height expansion cards behind that, so that still gives you accessibility for a lot of the video capture cards that are on the market, or if you want to drop in a riser card that gives you additional M.2 slots or something like that, you still have that ability there. Radiator support port, as mentioned, is up to a 360mm rad in the top, and then you can do a 240 or a 280 in the side. And because this mount sits so far back, you can actually do a really thick radiator. The radiator and fan configuration there can be up to 150mm thick. And then right here you have grommeted pass-throughs for all of your cable management. I'm gonna have more to say on this case as we start building, but the last thing for now is I really like some of the design elements that they have come up with, like the lines. You can see they sort of wrap around like this and follow the shape of that front panel. And back here again, for both ventilation and aesthetics, the lines sort of come here, they go up to the top, they continue across the top and to the back of the case. And again, just having that same look both on the bottom and the top, I found it to be quite striking. And like I said in the intro, I wasn't originally planning to build this system in this case. I needed to choose a case, but when I took a look at it and the features and everything, I was like, you know what? This is what I want to go with. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the retail price for this case is $200 US. And while I can't say I've tested like airflow and cooling in it, I will say with the feature set included fans and especially that PCIe 4.0 riser cable, that actually seems pretty competitive to me, at least at first glance. I have now removed everything from the retail boxes, and I noticed something very specific when I was taking this RTX 3080 Ti liquid cooled graphics card out of the box. It had so much packaging. There was a plastic cover around the outside, and then there was another plastic cover, and then there was a bunch of plastic pieces over there. So if I can ask a favor from Joe, the editor. Joe, can we toss up a quick peel montage? That sure was sexy. Thanks, Joe. Now we're going to set up the motherboard. So we're going to install the CPU, the memory, the SSD, and also this retention bracket for the all-in-one liquid cooler, which is going to attach to the back of the motherboard. So our motherboard is pretty much set up. There were only two things that stood out to me. One is that I've realized this Trident Z memory kit has the stickers. One of the sticks has the sticker on the wrong side, which confused me at first, but it was okay. I figured it out. What's going on here? Is the sticker backward? Oh my God, the sticker's backwards. What? Whoa, the sticker's backwards. Then for the M.2 SSD, there's three different places we could put it. This top slot has a pretty decent heat sink on it with sort of a supplemental floating heat pipe that sticks out above it. So that would be a good place to put a high-speed PCIe 4.0 or even PCIe 5.0 SSD. The lower slots down here are PCIe 4.0 as well, and they have a heatsink across the top. The one on the left has dual-sided heat sinks. The one on the right only has one-sided, and since our WDSN750 M.2 SSD only has elements on one side of it, I decided to pop it in right there. That will leave the other M.2 expansion slots open for the eventual owner of this PC to add more M.2 SSD storage if they want. And now we have the question of the order of operations for installing everything into the case. The power supply we can mount pretty easily by itself in the back. The motherboard I will probably opt to pop in there first. I did use the adhesive on the back of that CPU cooler bracket, so it will stay in place even though these front brackets aren't on there yet to hold it in. And we've also got a couple radiators to mount, and we need to mount the fans to the radiators. So plenty of work still to do. One thing I will say is that the two pre-mounted fans on this ASUS liquid-cooled RTX 3080 Ti, I am going to swap out. This is primarily an aesthetic choice, so feel free to give me a hard time in the comments. That said, these two fans that are pre-installed have two cables coming off of each one. One is for RGB, and that just connects via a standard 3-pin addressable RGB connector at the top. The other one is your standard 4-pin PWM fan plug. But those are then fed into the sleeved tube here for the reservoir, and they feed all the way up to the graphics card so that you can get power and fan control and lighting all controlled directly by the graphics card itself. Since these These Corsair fans also have 2 plugs, but one of them for the RGB is a proprietary plug that needs to plug into a Corsair control box. I'll be mounting these fans to this radiator, plugging the standard fan PWM plug into these existing plugs here so that the graphics card can control the fan speed, but then routing that Corsair RGB header over to the Corsair RGB box, which I will also install hopefully somewhere back there by the cable management. Anyway, that's my plan for the next steps, so let's continue the build. So in the interest of completely disassembling this system, I removed this sort of corner piece for the glass right here as well. It's a little bit harder to get off. There's 4 screws, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom that you need to remove. And this is the part where they recommended not putting any weight on this corner of the case while that's removed, because it does provide some vertical support there. It also seems like a piece that maybe you don't even need to remove during the build process if you can get away with it. So I just mainly pulled it off here to show you guys. I'm going to reinstall it and try to leave it there to prevent or reduce the risk of any frame bending if I accidentally lean on this. And incidentally, this is also the orientation they say if you want to, you can just leave these side panels off and have sort of more of an open air chassis. I prefer the tempered glass myself. So there it is, 4 more screws reinstalled, and yeah, that's it's like a premier feature of this case is this sort of angled tempered glass side piece. So real quickly, I wanted to show you guys the half height add-in card feature of this case. This is an Elgato 4K60 Pro, the newer version that's a little bit smaller. It is a half height card. It ships with a full height PCI bracket. So we're gonna remove that, and it also ships with the half height one. So we'll pop that on, like so. So now if we move this riser cable out of the way, we can line this up with our expansion bracket, or expansion slot, I guess I should say. Pop it in just like that. I'm not gonna screw it in because this is just sort of a temporary example, but then this cable will be able to go around it, and then we should be able to plug that in right there. This motherboard also has the quick PCIe Q release, the ASUS motherboard feature that I like so much, so that's convenient. There it goes. And there you go. I should note that the top PCI Express slot on this motherboard is actually 1 slot down than the top slot on the case. And that was just a decision that ASUS made in the design of this motherboard. As a result, there's a little bit more slack on the riser cable right there that's sort of tucked in at the bottom. Still plenty of room to make it around that add-in card, and do bear in mind that once I remove the, ooh, look, more peeling plastic. But just to give an idea, the graphics card is going to go right there. So nothing that's behind there will be visible, but I approve that HYTE was able to make those expansion slots still functional even with a vertical mount GPU. All right, a bit more time has passed and the front of the build is actually like almost, I think, pretty much finished. I don't want to say like finished because there's probably still going to be a few things. It's also day 2 of this build now, and part of that was because these sleeved cables didn't arrive until well into the evening of the shoot on day 1. But that's what I've been working on mostly today, is getting those sleeve cables installed and trained up a little bit. And while these aren't like the softest sleeved cable extensions I've ever worked with, the combs that they provide are pretty easy to pop on. And although I had to get 2 sets in order to accommodate the dual 8-pin CPU power connectors up there, as well as the triple 8-pin power connectors that the graphics card requires, that did mean that I had a few extra cable combs and stuff. So for example, the 3 8-pins coming off of here, I was able to use 12-pin combs on to sort of, you know, keep that a little bit cleaner and nicer looking. Also matches pretty well with the 24-pin coming off the motherboard. The main point of conflict with these is in the upper left corner here, because they need to make a pretty tight turn there, and it's going right up against this fan. So once I get things sorted out behind the motherboard tray, I'm going to need to come up here, push these out of the way, and bend them as much as I can to make sure that there's still clearance with that top fan. But here on the reverse side, you can probably see I still have a fair amount of work to do. I need to wire all 6 of those fans up to this little hub. The fans themselves, for the fan power, I'm plugging all those directly into the motherboard, and I used a couple fan splitters for that. But moving on to the final steps here, I need to install the power supply, this 2.5-inch SSD as well, which should go right about there. And then of course, cable management, which is always the most fun part of any PC build, right? Of course. And the system is complete. You guys might have seen for the cable management part, I did take advantage of this case's sort of extra wide cable management area, and I just stuffed some of the cables in there. Fortunately though, the part that's still visible on this side looks very, very nice, if I do say so myself. The element of this build that I wasn't totally sure of was the AIO tubing, and right now I've just used 2 of the ASUS ROG Velcro strips to kind of hold those all together. I had an idea to flip the radiator for the AIO for the GPU upside down and have the tubes go over the back and then down along the bottom. But after shifting them around a little bit and tying them up with the Velcro, I'm okay with it. It's a little bit utilitarian, but I'm okay with that too, because the rest of the build just looks so pristine with the sort of black and white aesthetic. And then RGB of course comes into play too once the system is powered on. And overall, I'd say my impression of the build process in the HYTE Y60 is very positive. And that is in part due to the ample room for cable management, also in part due to just some little details here and there that I appreciate, like not having individual front panel connectors. It's got the block of them. It makes it much easier to plug that in. Even the radiator bracket across the top of the case helped me out because I was able to loosen those screws to lift it up a little bit to help me route the cable extensions that are in the upper left, which are just ever so barely making clearance and allowing all the fans to spin for that top-mounted 360mm radiator. But that is going to wrap things up for this video. Just a reminder that all the parts I used in this build are linked down in the video description. And yes, I'll be doing a follow-up video in about a week going over system performance, so if there's anything specific that you guys would like to see tested, or lighting configurations or anything like that, leave those comments in the comment section down below. Also down in the description you can find a link to my store at paulshardware.net, where you can buy shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and all sorts of other high-quality merchandise to help support my channel and get some high-quality merch at the same time. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already for more tech videos like this one. We'll see you guys all in the next video.